Oh,
Thank you. Oh, it actually is. I was just looking into this. So, guys, how are you doing? Coming to you live from, I think we're off the island of Skye. You can't really see it in the background ever so well, but behind that fog is the island of Skye. This is a Great British Swim. As promised, wanted to do a live Q&A where what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer some of your questions here. So we've had some questions already come through. I'm going to discuss those, and as those come through, I'm then going to start answering them live as they come through on the phone. But as you know, with live feeds with myself and the Great British Swim, quite often these things don't go quite to plan. So we're going to kind of roll. We've got a structure, but we're going to adapt as things go along. First off, the world record. So, unbeknown to me, when we set off for the Great British Swim, the goal was always to swim around the coast of Great Britain. However, in the process, it seems that we may have also broke the record for the world's longest sea swim without flippers and a snorkel and no propulsion aids. So that's been really nice. We were speaking to the World Open Water Swimming Association. I'm being direct. Oh, right. Which is this? But just out of shot, Liv basically takes care of me on all live feeds because, as you know, I go off on a little bit of a tangent. And this is the plaque. This is the plaque I go for the world's longest sea swim. Which I didn't know. Like I said, like genuinely. Oh, I can see your comments coming through here. Yes. Okay, I'll address these. I can see who are your team. Shaving, I do need a shave. I'm going to address these questions a little bit later. So I'm going to run through these and then I'm just going to jump on and we can actually start chatting. So yeah, it's been a little bit weird. And I was saying, because we worked out after 74 days of swimming, swimming for 12 hours a day, I've actually spent over 20 days just staring at the bottom of the seabed. So I don't really know what's happening in the outside world. I don't really, pay much attention to the news because I'm either swimming or sleeping. So when I was handed this, it was just like a really, really nice surprise that I wasn't quite aware of. So that's amazing. You'll see on the vlog this week, so Thursday, 4 p.m, I presented the plaque. We spray champagne. I can't drink the champagne because we've still got over 900 miles still to go. So I sprayed the champagne, but I didn't drink it. But this is the plaque, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to answer a few more questions. These are ones that people have been sending through before. How have you been doing? Good. So I don't know if you can see ever so well, but rhino neck is now it started there, and now it's turned into like rhino boob. So that goes down there. So all that now is just chafed and just like calluses. So that's okay. Salt tongue, salt tongue's absolutely fine now. So just basically lubing it up with coconut oil before I swim every day. Apart from that, I'm not too bad. Like, I think this is the first time since we got to Scotland that we kind of as a team went, this is doable. It's still, there's so far to go, but we're sort of like, this is kind of doable. I see so many questions coming through, so I'm going to rattle off. I'm going to rattle off these so I can jump on some of these. I'm going to do a mini cabin tour a little bit later. Injury update. Everything seems okay. Also as well, we had Jeff, the physio. You'll know him from, I think it was episode 7. Just hench fingers, and he just went to town on me for like 3 hours. And also the boat behind us, just over there. I jumped on the other boat, and for 3 hours, Jeff just went to town on me, needles, and it's good. The shoulders feel okay. How have you found the support from everyone? This is something I want to actually talk about, just because it doesn't matter whether we've been from Devon to Scotland. I think one of the best things about this whole thing, apart from the wildlife and the scenery, is also just like the people. It's just been amazing. I always say, and I need to give a shout out just in case they're watching, the Sidmouth Fudge Fairy. It was the middle of the night. We were all asleep. We'd been swimming for 12 hours. It was brutal. We were all really struggling. And somebody, still don't know who, came out in the middle of the night and saw that we were all sleeping. So didn't want to disturb us because they understood that we all needed to sleep, but just wanted to give us something that would help, the next day's swim. So they gave us Devonshire Sidmouth fudge, and there was just a little note saying good luck. And that was amazing until we got to Scotland as well. And I have to give her a shout out, Iona. I was again sleeping middle of the day, 3 p.m. and the sweetest wild swim. She comes out in just like wearing a swimming suit and a smile. That was it, with a cake on her head. It was amazing as well. Just in case Iona's watching, it was unbelievable. She didn't even leave anything, so I can't even contact her. The cake was amazing. So just the support from everyone has been incredible. One, for those who actually can come out to the boat, but two as well, just on social media as well, like people offering me jellyfish remedies and you know, just helping with sea ulcers and everything. So the support's been amazing, but I just don't think you realise how much of a difference it makes. Because when you've got to put on a cold wetsuit at 2 o'clock in the morning, that, you know, you're probably going to be stung. You don't know how many times, and you don't know what by. It's just not pleasant. So when you get nice messages, and people are like, you know, look, good luck, you know, all the best, you know, I'll see you when you get to Scotland. It really does probably make the difference between, you know, making that time and not. So yeah, how have I found the support? Amazing, overwhelming, and made such a difference. Now, got a few more questions. These are people who jumped on before, so I need to answer these, and then what I'll do is I'll jump on your questions so we can do this live, and I can start to see those. So, Bren Orton asks, would you rather fight one jellyfish the size of a great white shark, or 100 great white sharks the size of a jellyfish? Bren, that's a good question. Oh, would you rather fight one giant one? I would rather fight one giant one, because do I have a weapon? If I'm allowed a weapon, one. But if I don't have a weapon and it's just like Queensberry rules, boxing, no, I still think one. I would take one. I think 100 will be an issue. I think fighting 100 great white sharks. No, actually, because 100 great white sharks, the size of jellyfish, that's like piranhas, and I don't want to fight them either. So definitely a jellyfish. And the other reason being, I don't think the jellyfish mean to harm me. Like, they're just going about their business. And I said this in like episode 5, I think it was, that I'm the one who's swimming past their back garden. So I'm in their house. So if they sting me, I'm probably the one at fault. The same way that if a jellyfish was in my kitchen at home, I'd be like, what are you doing? You know? I think about this sort of stuff when I'm swimming at night. I hope that answers your question, Brad. Kieran Mitchell asks, how do you overcome the fear of darkness on the ocean? Something I've struggled with recently when trying lake swimming. Kieran, that's a very good point. I do it in 2 ways. One, I think having the team around you, genuine. I mean, we've got marine biologists on board, so I will speak to them and I'll say, look, honestly, we're going across the Bristol Channel. What is the worst thing that I have to, you know, look forward to? Is anything going to eat me? And they'll say, you know, you need to look at this, this and this. Basking sharks are okay, got massive mouths, but they're not going to eat you. Minke whales, not so bad. Seals off Lundy Island, probably okay, as long as it's not mating season. But other than that, you're fine. But then I'll caveat that as well with, and this is probably not good advice, but just sometimes just being like really naive to it. No, not even naive to it, but also just, what I will say is, one thing I've found is when I'm swimming, like the minke whale knew where I was at all times, even though I didn't know where it was. It knew where I was, and that was during the day when I had some sort of visibility. So I just think, in terms of the hierarchy of the sea, I'm very low down on it. And if anything didn't want me in the sea, or wanted to just, you know, take a bite out of me, there's probably not an awful lot I could do about it, whether that's day or night. So if you're swimming at the night, the fear is probably only in your head because you're probably still in danger in the day. That's probably not helping you. And I'm sorry, Kieran, but what I'm trying to say is if you were going to get eaten, it would probably be night or day. That's not good advice. Don't take that advice, Kieran. This is terrible, and that's what I mean about being naive. That is probably terrible advice. Don't take it. Right, Big Craig asks, how much Red Bull have you drank? Good question. So what I'll do, it really depends on certain factors. I could probably work out the exact thing, but what I'm doing, because we are swimming for 6 hours, 12 hours of the day, during the day swims, when your circadian rhythm, so your body's 24-hour biological clock, when that knows that you're meant to be up, basically I can get away with maybe, you know, 85 megs to 150 megs of caffeine. So that's, you know, 1 can or a can and a half of Red Bull. I'll take that before the swim, usually with some porridge oats, for 2 reasons. 3 reasons. First reason is caffeine has been shown to actually improve the ionic environment within the working muscle. What I mean by this is it's been able to, research has shown that it spares muscle glycogen. So the reason I have it with my porridge oats is because it increases the mobilization of fat. So you're using the fat on the body as a fuel source, and then what it's doing is making sure that the muscle glycogen that you had from the porridge oats, so stored carbohydrates, can be used later in that swim. Number 2, neurotransmitters, so chemical signals in the brain. Caffeine has been shown to favourably work with those, so your perception to fatigue. So while your shoulders might be on fire, you know, salt tongue, chafing, again, caffeine is going to help throughout those 6 hours. I said a third reason, I forgot. Third reason is if I'm swimming throughout the night, again, your body's 24-hour biological clock. So when your hormones basically peak and trough, and your hormones will basically relate to daylight or darkness, you're trying to almost biohack that and say, look, you know, I know your body's meant to be asleep right now, Ross. I know that it's pitch black. I know you've got to put on a clammy wetsuit. And I know you just want to go to bed. But caffeine will basically help to almost biohack that and say, but please, if you get up and you swim 6 hours through the night, by then the caffeine would have worn off, then you can go to sleep. So how much caffeine? I'm having about 150 megs a day, which is quite a conservative dose of caffeine as well. Most pre-workouts, when you're looking at sports nutrition, might have over 300 megs. But the reason I'm doing it so conservatively as well is I always say, understand how to use caffeine. And people are sort of like, oh, what do you mean by that? And it's just like, look, it can be a really powerful supplement if you know how to use it. If you don't, you know, it's like anything, it's not really going to help you. But by using it conservatively, I've been able to basically sustain what has now been 74 days of swimming every single day without being ill. So that's the theory when we started this whole thing, and up until now, it's worked. So they're my 3 reasons of why I drink, but I don't know how much. I could probably work it out, so 74 times 150. If you've got a calculator, that's my answer, Craig. James Josh, have you been tempted to switch up your stroke and do some backstroke or butterfly during the long swims? James, I have been tempted, but there's a part of me that just doesn't want butterfly. That's bold. No, I haven't been tempted to do butterfly. Backstroke I have, because then, you know, you can imagine going past jellyfish, it would just basically, instead of like teabagging your face, it would teabag the back of your head. Breaststroke I haven't, and this is interesting because Captain Webb, first guy to swim across the English Channel, he swum the whole thing breaststroke because, and I quote, it was ungentlemanly to swim front crawl. But with me, I just, maybe it's just an ego thing, but I just think if you're going to swim around Great Britain, you've got to swim front crawl. So I haven't done butterfly because I'm not that good at butterfly. I haven't done backstroke yet. And my ego won't allow me to do breaststroke. So it's all front crawl so far. And then Twixie asks, when will this madness end? I don't know either. So we originally said, and I think we covered this in the Red Bull vlog, I think it was number 4 or 5, that when I started this, I was very naive in that I had everything worked out on paper, and I said, look, I've worked out what I can swim in 24 hours, and I think this can be done in 100 days. And I very quickly realised that when this will end is not up to me. And what I mean by that is if the ocean and the weather and waves and tide have other ideas, you know, it could be 200 days, you know, it could be less, I don't know. Especially where we are right now, Island of Skye, we've still got John O'Groats, Cape Wrath, we've got huge bays on the east coast, so there's a lot of big obstacles to cover. We've covered, you know, the Battle of Lyme Bay, again, episode 5, Land's End, I mean, that was pretty brutal. Bristol Channel, that was no picnic, and the Irish Sea, but we've still got so many more obstacles along the way. So when this will end, if I had to predict, I would say 40 to 60 days. But I don't know. That is my prediction. That's my rough prediction. But I may be well out. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm jumping on the questions. So what I can do, if you've now got questions, I can see them coming through. So what we'll do is now just like quick, I'll jump on here. Thanks, Liv. So what I'll do now is I'll jump on here. Thanks, Liv. And then I'll answer your questions. Will Gilgrass, what a beard! Yes, Will! Mate, this has taken me 74 days. This is as good as it gets. It was like, it started to look a little bit Abraham Lincoln, but it's kind of filled out. I think this is the salt water. But what I've discovered as well is with my beard, it doesn't grow down like Gandalf, it grows out. So it's like an afro, but on my chin. But it works, because the other day I hit a jellyfish, and it bounced off my chin, rather than when I was cleanly shaven, it just like stuck. Like that, and I remember I popped my head up. It was one on the darkness episode, which was episode. I'm looking at you and like he might know. He doesn't know. Episode 9, I think, maybe episode 9, when we talk about the swimming at night. But just after that, after we finished filming, there was a period I remember I was swimming and I got stung and the tentacle was actually across my face, and I got up and I shouted to Taz, who was on the rib, and I went, Taz, I've been hit. And he was like, oh no, and I went, it's still stinging. And Taz goes, it's still on your face. And the jelly tentacle was still there, just stinging. So if it gets me there, I'm in trouble. But if it gets my beard, this does kind of offer a little bit of protection. Where are we at? Oh no, I need to scroll down. Sorry guys. Here we go. Cotty Games bounced off the chin. Yes it did. What is the average distance you swim a day? Declan Richardson. Really good question. And it's so hard to work out an average. Just to give you an answer. So I remember it was the Battle of Lyme Bay. I think episode 5. And you can see in a tide in 6 hours, because the waves, the currents were so bad, I managed 0.7 miles in 6 hours of swimming. It was horrible. I wasn't swimming, I was just wrestling the water. Then with the current with me, smooth conditions, a month later I did over 100 miles in 3 to 4 days across the Irish Sea. So the average is so hard because the difference between the two is just so big. Christina Ramirez. Honestly though, what do you think about during 6 hour swims? So we cover that in this episode actually a little bit, coming out this Thursday 4 PM. But I will give you a little preview as well, Christina. So I talk about it almost as like creative collateral. So imagine in your head, because you're just left alone with your own thoughts, so you have to entertain yourself. You have to be really happy with your own company. And I call it creative collateral because it's like, imagine you've just got this library in your head, you know, of just like films, books, jokes, quotes, like comedy shows, and you just flick through them in your head. And at any given point, you just take something that is more powerful than the feeling of being fatigued, or you're, you know, chafing, or the desire to stop. You need something that's more powerful. And during 6 hours, you might like change the channel so many times. It might be a joke that somebody told you like 3 months ago, and you're laughing to yourself. And this is what's crazy, is like, as I'm laughing to myself underwater, I'm like, Ross, this isn't normal. Like, and it's like this cabin fever that you've got, but then you think swimming around Great Britain isn't normal. So maybe it takes this sort of a mindset to occupy yourself with that, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question, Christina. We'll go into a little bit more detail in this week's vlog, but I hope that helps. Here we go. Calisthenics on the boat, how's it going? Henry, good. I busted out a few muscle-ups the other day, purely just to see if I could, and I did. They weren't pretty though. What was your background in swimming? George Williams. Yeah, I was 50-meter butterfly. I was competing nationally at that. I stopped because I always say I'm built like a hobbit. I'm 5'8", maybe 5'9" if I wear this hat like this. And I just, yeah, it was never going to happen. I was never going to make the Olympic squad, so I ended up playing water polo, and I played that for England English schools, and made the England squad. I played internationally, and I think the Great British Swim, I then left sort of swimming for a while, and I think studying sports science, I then kind of came back to swimming with this kind of newfound appreciation for what you can do with the human body. And if you understand certain strength and conditioning principles and fuse that with athletic adventure and what the ocean's doing and the tides and the currents, is it possible to swim around Great Britain? And 74 days later, I'm now speaking to you good people. Ross, what times are you missing the most about being on land? Yeah, what am I missing most about land? It sounds weird, but just like land, because like everyone's now laughing at me. But hear me out. Like everyone's laughing. I'm being ridiculed off camera. Hear me out. I'm missing land, because, and this is going to sound so weird, because swimming for 12 hours a day is non-weight bearing. So like my Achilles and my like calves and everything, they just miss gravity. Like I miss gravity. That sounds really weird, but like Liv's laughing at me. I miss gravity. Because I don't visit gravity much anymore. Is that weird? Liv doesn't miss gravity. I miss gravity. Here we go. What is? Oh, this is a good one. Okay, Aladdin, what is your post-race rehab recovery process before swims to keep your body ticking over? The reason that's such a good point is because there almost becomes no pre-swim, intra-swim, post-swim. Because if you're swimming for 12 hours a day, it all just merges. And so sometimes, I'll get out, and in terms of what is my post-swim recovery, it depends, and it will vary from day to day, in that if I get out and I'm shivering so badly, that post-recovery is just eat something as quick as you can, get warm and sleep. If I'm so fatigued, if something in terms of recovery, if my neck's bleeding from the wetsuit chafing, that's recovery, and we identify that. If my tongue's falling apart, it's like, maybe let's stop my tongue falling out. So whatever is the limiting factor that day, and whatever is the worst part of my body, that is what we identify to keep me ticking over. And throughout these 74 days, that's changed so much. And it can, like I said, it could be cold, it could be pain, it could be a cut, abrasion. And if it's not all of that, then quite often it's just looking to replenish muscle glycogen as quickly as possible, with enough protein as well to induce protein synthesis, the repair and regrowth of the muscles. So looking at that 3-to-1 ratio, carbohydrates to protein. So if you're having over 30 grams of protein, you're having 90 grams of carbohydrates in whatever format your tongue will allow you to eat, basically. Hello from South Africa. Yes. How have you got so much muscle? Declan, I don't really. I'm really short, so I think that's the thing. A lot of people, when they see me in real life, they go, "Oh, you're really quite small." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I am." Like, you can't tell from the camera. I think people think I'm bigger than I am. I'm not. But I went into, to answer your question there, Declan, as I was just talking about, I was a swimmer first, and then when I went into water polo, I ended up playing in the senior men's squads, and I was like 15 and just getting beaten up. I was just too small, and I wasn't able to basically hold my own. If anyone's watched water polo or played water polo, you'll know it's quite a physical sport, and I was just getting beaten up by guys much bigger and older than me. So my coach just said, "Ross, you need to just get a little bit stronger, sacrifice some of that swimming speed to hold your own in the pool." And that's when I really fell in love with strength and conditioning, and I think the muscle mass that I do have is almost a byproduct, of that. Faye McCullough, beard, yes. Where are you in Scotland? That is the Isle of Skye. What do you enjoy most about what you do? That's a good question. What do I enjoy about it? I think what I enjoy most is that we're uncovering so many new things. Like before this, there was no blueprint to swim around the coast of Great Britain, but also, setting the world's longest sea swim. No one had ever done this before. So I love that it's not necessarily, about the record, although the plaque is quite nice. It's not about the record. Oh, thanks, Lou. It's not, although this is nice, it genuinely is, and I'm not going to lie, like, I like this, and it is something to, tell the grandkids. It's going to be really, really cool. It's more about the fact that we get to share all of this, and we kind of raise the bar in terms of what we thought as humans were capable of in terms of swimming in the sea. That's what I really like, I think, to pass this on, all the other teachings. And if somebody messages me and says, I saw the Great British Swim and I've just done this, or not even in swimming, if somebody says, and I saw that and I've always wanted to sign up to an Ironman, but I never thought it was possible, but I saw what you did with the Great British Swim and I took some of the teachings of that and I signed up to my first Ironman and I did it. That's what I enjoy most, and hearing how other people have taken the principles of the Great British Swim and done their own equivalent. That's what I enjoy most. And in any gym, any swimming pool, any athletics track, anywhere in the world, I will just sit for hours and hear what somebody else has done. That is one of the best things about it. Cotter Games, yeah, water polo, yes. Steve Watley, oh mate, big game is strong. How do you find the pollution level around different parts of the country? Some worse than others. Steve, good question. Good question, only because, I said this the other day, as stunning as the scenery is in Scotland, swimming around the coast of Great Britain is quite different, because I've spent the 74 days, 20 of those days, staring at the bottom of the seabed. So I actually experienced the coast of Great Britain through as weird as it sounds, like taste sometimes. So in terms of pollution, I can tell you, like, the Irish Sea tastes amazing. It's just like, I wasn't trying to taste it. Just in terms, when you're swimming, you notice it on your tongue. So like, the Irish Sea tastes great. It's nice. It's a turquoise colour. So it's really nice. The Scottish waters taste like fresh, but it's cold. And Bristol Channel taste. Because box jellyfish don't smell very nice, and people say you can't smell underwater. You can smell underwater. You can smell the box jellyfish. So the Bristol Channel with the box jellyfish and stuff smell a bit musky. Not bad, just musky. Smell organic. It smelled like a whale had been to the toilet. That's how it smelled and tasted. Not bad. Not bad. I'm laughing. It just tasted like it wasn't just water I was swimming through. But good pollution. I'm gonna move on from the question. Here we go. What are the animals have you seen besides jellyfish, the open sharks? Brianna Turner. Yeah, no sharks. I'm told that I'm very likely to possibly see a basking shark, which are friendly. I'm told. We were told that there's 40 orcas kind of circling Scotland at the moment. Again, I hope they're friendly. But one of the best things that I've seen was the minke whale, which was the Bristol Channel, one I was just talking about, who escorted me to Wales when it thought that I was an injured seal. Sally G, I hear Liv's laugh. Yes, you do, Sally. She's sitting right here. Australia next. Mattis, do you know what we have? Right, this is it. At 2 o'clock in the morning, where we're sitting right now, we've sat in the sort of captain's cockpit area. Me and Matt have looked at different countries, and Australia was one that we were working out the logistics. Apparently it's doable, but also a lot of sharks. Where'd you get your headbands from? I make a few of them. So the headband that you see me wearing a lot, it was a swimming cap, but I didn't want the pressure on my head, but I needed it to make sure the water didn't go in my ears. So we just cut the top of it, and it was and it worked. It's Obstacle Race Magazine. Is Poseidon your role model? This is from Carl Whipperley from Obstacle Race Magazine. I'm trying to model my beard on Poseidon's, but also, yes, if you're going to have a role model, Poseidon is a good one. How old were you when you started training? Henry, good question. The thing is, training's hard to define, because I've got an older brother who's 2 years older, so when he was playing sport, I was trying to keep up with him. My dad's a tennis coach, my mum was a sprinter, one of my granddads is in the military, so sort of like calisthenics, bodyweight exercises. My other granddad, marathon runner, so endurance background. So I've just always been doing something, but probably not like training as such. Like, I would have just considered it, play. But so that's probably another. I was going to go off on a bit of a tangent there. We're going to keep it short, but way way back, and that's sort of an old, almost Soviet Union training principle where you look at general physical preparedness to build a neurological foundation. And see, like, you're laughing, a neurological foundation so you can then adapt. All great athletes, what I'm trying to say is all great athletes have had that sort of initial period of just play and general physical preparedness. What will be your next challenge, Ellie Moore? We've had a few I've had a few ideas. The reason I'm laughing is Ewan is off camera and he's looking at me. But I won't say that. I've had a few ideas, and although we haven't finished the Great British Swim yet, I can hear it shaking its head. I've had a few ideas, and I've been floating them with his shaking his head, and I'm not allowed to say. As you can imagine, because I've got so much time to think, Ellie, I actually do. Because I have so much time to think, I always come up with loads of ideas. So I have actually got a few ideas, but everybody's looking at me now as if to say, don't say a word. So I'm not going to say anything. Do you feel sick at times? I did in the first 2 weeks, but seasickness is something that you kind of, you do acclimatise to quite well. So the first 2 weeks I was a little bit bad, but now not so bad. I think you should shave your beard, Sam. I think so too, but this is not decorative. It's purely out of necessity to save me from the jellyfish. But I'm told around the East Coast there's not as many, so I might get rid of it. Because I don't know. I don't know if I pull it off. I think is my concern. Quick tip: if you wear pantyhose on your face, it stops jellyfish stings. Brianna, I tried that, but like the tights were collecting with water, and then so what we did, we fashioned a mask instead. But I might go back to them because the lion, like the giant jellyfish of Scotland, they don't care if you're wearing a mask or pantyhose; they'll get you. What's been your favourite moment so far? Bristol Channel minke whale, or Scotland when Iona, wild swimmer, brought me cake. That was amazing. It was good cake. Where are we? Oh no, I need to. Sorry, so many questions coming in. Right, here we go. Have you thought about getting waterproof MP3 player? Actually, I have. The thing is one, I know quite a lot of them. The headphones, I've got really odd ears, so some of them don't work. And like all jokes aside, when you're out there and you commit to getting in the water, you don't want to be fiddling around with anything, especially if like the tides, currents. Sometimes just off in Scotland, the Corriavacan, I think I pronounced that right, but there was actually a whirlpool that we had to swim through. So at any given moment, if you stop to have a banana or anything, or just some headphones, you'll be getting pushed back or into a whirlpool in Scotland. You just don't want that. So anything that might be fiddly, and it's the same with chafing. You don't want to add any unnecessary layers and like tape and things. So it's a constant kind of like, what will make it more comfortable? And you're absolutely right, music might make it more comfortable, but will it be efficient, or will you be playing around with it? And it's a constant sort of, and now I think we started it with no music, and so we've kind of gone, we might as well finish it under the same strict rules. And that's one thing. When we started this whole thing, we said, you never touch land, you don't wear flippers, you don't wear snorkels, you're not listening to headphones, and as a result, I'm stubborn enough to stick by those rules. So would you want to do a hiking challenge? Yeah, no, I would. That's a good one. Just because after this, one, I think I'll almost have to learn to walk again, because my legs, like I said, that non-weight bearing for 12 hours a day. But two, I think if you were to walk around the coast of Great Britain, it would be a completely different experience. So yeah, like I probably would look into running, hiking, fell running. What's the closest you've been to giving up? Yeah, I probably know the exact moment. Not necessarily giving up. I've never ever wanted to give up, but there's been, to be very honest with you, there's been times when I was like, I'm not going to give up, but this is probably going to end pretty badly. Just in terms of, and if you've watched Strongman Swimming again, Red Bull series, you'll know that at the end of that, when I was swimming between Martinique to St. Lucia, pulling a 100-pound treat. I tried twice, and if you watch closely on that final swim, you'll see that my feet aren't quite under me. You know, my eyes are almost sort of rolling into the back of my head. So it's bad in that I know I'll sort of almost take it that far. And on this, I was so determined. Like I said before, you know, I was like, be so naive that you start, but so stubborn that you finish. And so I was like, look, I'm not going to give up, but someone's probably going to have to pull me out of the water, you know, or as I always say, you know, if I'm going down, I'm going down swimming. And that was certainly the case. Dungeness, it was only like 2 to 3 weeks in. My neck was just bleeding, my tongue was falling out, and I remember just thinking, you know, if I'm going down, someone's going to have to come in and pull me out. So it wasn't necessarily giving up, but there's been moments like that where I was like, this could end badly. Which I look back now with a smile. At the time, no, and we addressed that in this vlog this week actually, and I think that's so important, because whilst it's been so sweet, a lot of people saying it's amazing how, you know, you're always smiling. I'm like, no, like I'm not always smiling, and there's times, and we give you a glimpse into probably the most important room on this entire boat, which is the toilet cabin. And because it's just 1 metre by 1 metre, and that is where I'll put on that cold wetsuit and just have a real sort of conversation with myself, just saying, you don't have to get in, you can go back to bed, but if you do that, you're probably missing out on, you know, 10 miles, and if you miss out on 10 miles, that's another day that you're still out here and not getting all the way back to Margate. So I really can't wait for the episode this week, because it's we sort of delve into that. I think it's really important, because although I try my best to smile, it's quite often easier said than done. So that's going to be quite good, and it'd be great even to actually hear your opinions, because if anyone's doing triathlons, ultramarathons, anything like that, their first race and they're nervous, you'll know that it's all very well someone saying, oh, smile, you know, a smile's really powerful, swim with a smile, the science of a smile, but to do that on the start line when you're staring down the barrel of an ultramarathon is very different, and it's something that I'm still trying to figure out. And I wanted that to be really important in this week's vlog, because it's not something that I've mastered. And I think some of the comments, people going, oh, you're doing it. I'm like, no, I'm still figuring it out. So that's going to be a really cool episode. It'll be great to actually see what you guys think as well, and your experience of it. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned from the Great British Swim? See, Sandyman, that is exactly it actually. That it's all very well saying swim with a smile, you know, making sure that a smile can affect your, you know, psychoimmunology, and making sure that, you know, you're basically not spiking certain stress hormones like cortisol, inflammation, affecting the body's white T cells and supporting the body's immune system. I've just quoted all that science. That's really easy to say. That will alter the biochemistry in your body favourably if you smile, but it's a very different thing to actually do that at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're getting off the back of the boat here in a cold wetsuit about to be stung by jellyfish. And so that's one of my biggest lessons, is just, it's all very well saying that in theory, but there's theory and there's reality, and that's the whole British Swim. That's what I've learned. You can do everything on paper and work out that you're going to do it in 100 days, but if the ocean doesn't want you to do it in 100 days, you're not doing it in 100 days. Oh, I need to address this one. Adrian Lunn. It comes up quite a lot. I always said I was going to be completely honest. What do you do when you need to go to the toilet? Number ones and number twos. Somebody had to ask. Yes, they did, Adrian. So Adrian Lunn. I'm going to be completely honest. Which one's a number one? What's number one? Leo was just so polite and just went, wee. So yeah, number ones, genuinely, I will try and hold it. And I'm not saying that I am a gentleman, and you know, I'll try and hold it. Reason being is because my cold wetsuit will be hung up in my cabin, and you know, if I have, you know, indulged in a number one, that is going to smell, and the cabin's very small, and you don't want that. So I'll try and hold it. However, if Matt shouts out and says, look, there is a whirlpool, you know, you need to swim hard, you know, we've got a tide to make if you don't get around this corner, like Land's End. If we didn't make it around the corner at Land's End, we would have been waiting there for another 10 hours. So it was so important. So if you asked me at Land's End and said, do you need the toilet, and it was going to be the difference between getting around or not, I'm gonna wee in my wetsuit. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll wee in my wetsuit. I'll wee in your wetsuit. If it means I get round Land's End, I'm gonna wee. Number 2 is different because like that's just maybe like you don't want to do that, do you? Just I think no matter how bad you want to go, and it's a number 2, you can't do that in your wetsuit. This just not cricket, is it? Like, so no matter how badly I needed to swim around a coast or make a tide, I would get out, take off everything, so wetsuit, take it off, which is hassle, and I would go, and then I'd come back and I'd put that same cold wetsuit on, because I think the hardship of doing that is not the same as the hardship of pooing yourself. I hope that's answered your question. Good question. It was a good question. Someone had to ask it, Adrian. Someone did. Talk about toilet. Have you ever took a dump while swimming out? Dave just like was literally a few minutes later. No, honestly, I haven't taken a dump, but I have on 2 occasions. I've run on and unzipped my wetsuit and then gone back in. But I promise I haven't taken a dump in my wetsuit. I will tell you if I have. Oh no, loads of questions. Sorry. Messi or Ronaldo? I think Ronaldo's a better athlete. I think Messi has this natural ability. I wrote something for Bleacher Report ages ago, actually, on that. It was really good. How many Red Bulls? Already addressed that one, Sally, but we think 150 megs a day, 74 days. I'm going to try and work it out. 2 Red Bull. So maybe 140 over 74 days, which is, you know, but then 2 a day, maybe 1.5 a day. You know, like I said, start of the swim, 6 hours, improve ionic environment within the working muscle. 140 maybe? Which is, like I said, conservative when you compare that to most sports nutrition pre-workouts, and also when you start looking at cups of coffee as well. 85 megs, one can. So it's quite conservative. And then again, the reason I say that is because we realise that we've got over 100 days of this. So it's that law of minimal dose as well. Here we go. Weeing in wetsuits leads to chafing. I did not know that, Adrian. So it's a good right. I'm glad we've had this conversation, Adrian. Are you ever scared in the water, especially on night swims? Yeah, Joshua. Like Joshua McLean asked, are you ever scared in the water? I'm not, but I honestly think that's not because, you know, I'm brave or anything. I honestly think that's because I'm quite naive. And I think speaking to a lot of, on everything, tides, currents, I swam around a few, like Big Helens, Mulla Kintyre, quite a notorious headland that can be really bad in quite bad conditions, and we just really got lucky. It was so smooth. Again, last episode, if you go on YouTube and you watch that one, you'll see how smooth it was. But I just naively was just swimming along, and I was saying, I was so happy to be in Scotland, and local fishermen were going past going, it is never like this. And I think it's the same with some of the wildlife. I think, you know, just speaking to marine biologists and friends of mine, they've advised me on, you know, best practices. If you see, you know, an angry seal, you know, basking sharks are okay. If you do actually see a shark, it will be in the warmer waters. There is a danger of that, as we've had a very hot summer. So we've done a lot of research, and I think it's slightly naive, but also as well trusting experts as well. If someone tells you not to be scared, I'll get in and be scared and not be scared. But it's not necessarily even being scared, but it's when you get in at night, you know you're going to get stung by a jellyfish. You're probably definitely going to be stung, but you don't know how many times and what by and how bad. So it's not being scared, it's just reluctant. It's just like, you know, I can maybe take like 3 stings, bang, to the face. I'll take 3, but at 5, it starts attacking your central nervous system. You know, the toxins start getting into your bones, like your feet start itching. And there's been times when I've just been up like all night just itching, but it's not on the skin, it's attacking your central nervous system. There's been times where I'll start breathing a little bit heavy, like my heart will start beating, because it is essentially a poison, you know, it's a toxin. And that's when it starts to get a little bit like, meh, you know, maybe we should call it. But it's not scary, it's just reluctant, it's just unpleasant. And I think that's the thing. This is amazing. Aladdin, how did you convince a girlfriend to accept you'll be stuck on a boat for a third of the year? It's a good question. She's really, really accepting. However, I did originally tell her that I'd be done in 60 days. But she's really excited. She actually comes out. She comes out quite a lot. And I said this recently actually on is it the ITV? Yeah, you was nodding. I think it was ITV, and I said it's nice having her on. One, for support, and two, obviously because I miss her if she's watching. But also as well, she can tend to certain wounds and ailments that perhaps I wouldn't wish upon other people who don't know me as well. Let's leave it at that. Also, John, where did you get that hat? This was on the boat. I found it, and I've claimed it as mine. And hoodie. Yeah, this is a Vivo one. I'm living in this one at the moment because I think that's another good point actually. Just because your everything changes. So like I remember when I got on the boat and I was like, "Ooh, what shall I wear today?" And you know, what food shall I eat? You know, oh, I really fancy a nice curry. You know, spicy, something with flavour. And that's just all changed. Now, I don't really care what it looks like as long as it's just comfortable and it doesn't chafe and it's warm. And in terms of food, I don't really like care what it tastes like as long as it's not going to add any more hardship onto my tongue. And I think that's what's interesting. You go into this and certainly I think it was like episode 7 when I was speaking to Anthony Middleton, and you know, amazing, like long military career, like is a foremost expert when it comes to just hardship, and he was just saying that, you know, you will be reduced down to these feral basic human needs, you know, so nothing, I don't care about, you know, how you look and what flavour, you know, water I'm going to have today. It's just like, am I warm, have I slept enough, and have I eaten? Yes, cool, then I'm happy. And that's what I found really interesting. So I know we talk about, you know, like hats and stuff, but I just found this and I was like, that's warm. And you know, my Viva, I run in this, so I know it just fits and it's just warm. And I think that's the thing. It just it changes. Everything changes your perception when you're out here under, I call it healthy hardship. The reason I call it healthy hardship is because, you know, no one's forcing me to keep getting in the water. It's something that I want to do just to, you know, for this childlike curiosity about what the human body's capable of. So I call it healthy hardship. But in this healthy hardship, people, you know, I think start to strip back to this powerful primitive state. You know, what we were kind of, what is the minimum amount that we can just get by on, not just like survive but thrive. I'm going completely off on a tangent, sorry, but I hope that helps. Pro gaming ass lives got me. Pro gaming ass. What makes you capable of these things? Good question. Do you know what? That Liz just showed me that one. The reason it's such a good question is because I think, and I'm going to keep this quite short as I possibly can. But what makes me capable of this is looking at work capacity. It's something that I always talk about. Work capacity, probably the most underappreciated component of strength and conditioning. People look at the components of fitness as strength, speed, stamina, cardiorespiratory endurance, and you list all of those. But work capacity, your body's ability to perform and positively tolerate training of the given intensity and duration. And what I mean by that is, if you took 2 athletes and one had a higher work capacity, and that athlete said, and they both said, we want to train for the London Marathon coming up, and one had a higher work capacity, meaning that their body could tolerate higher volume and intensity of training, you could take that athlete and you could say, right, we are starting with half a marathon, straight out the bat. We're just going to go and do half a marathon. We're going to see where you're at. And that person would do that, probably be a little bit sore, but the next day, the next week, they'd be recovered and they'd be ready to go again. And through progressive overload, the gradual increase in you know, distance, time, speed, we would get them up to that marathon pace. Someone with a lower work capacity, their body couldn't tolerate that training intensity or duration. So if you made them run half a marathon, they'll just be a write-off, and it would be completely counterproductive because their body wouldn't positively tolerate that training intensity or duration. So identifying someone's work capacity means that you can then manipulate their biology to specifically adapt to anything. And I think that's one thing that, because going back to my background in sport, you know, my granddad, military background, my other granddad, marathon runner, my dad, a tennis coach, my mum, a sprinter, my older brother, football, my little brother, capoeira. I've always grown up just doing all of these things. Went to Loughborough University, where if I wasn't swimming, I was in the gymnastics hall. If I wasn't in the gymnastics hall, I was powerlifting with the rugby players. And so I just had this enthusiasm and just this work capacity jumping between all these different sports, like nomadic, just jumping from sport to sport, accidentally building this work capacity. So now, you know, to swim for 12 hours a day, my body, you know, you've got to remember it. So I'm 32. I know I look a lot older now with my beard, but I'm 32. So I've been doing this. I mean, I was swimming internationally when I was, you know, 11. So it's been this systematic increase in work capacity over almost 2 decades. Well, yeah, over 2 decades now. And so what I've done, I don't necessarily recommend to 99.999% of people. Like, it's a lifestyle I don't recommend. The Great British Swim is not a mass participation sport, but take the principles of it and apply it to whatever you want to do. So, you know, he's just out of shot now, but Ben, I remember when me and him, but we did 24 hours of sport at Loughborough University, and me and Ben, who's a fellow Loughborough grad, me and him, we ended up doing, we played like 2 hours of tennis, we did gymnastics, and I remember on it, I think it was a cheese panini, wasn't it, Ben? On a cheese panini, I convinced Ben to do a marathon through midnight around Loughborough, and he bought it, and he did it with me, and to keep me company. Ben had only, was it 5k you'd run before that? He's nodding. So he ran a marathon on a cheese panini, and he'd only done 5 kilometres before this. And what I love about that is because Ben, again, both his parents, sporting background, I knew that he had that work capacity. So for Ben, his body could tolerate it, but it was just whether he was actually going to do it. Ben now does Ironmans, just for fun. You on your 3rd Ironman now? Third half Ironman now, but this was 2 years ago. He'd only run 5k, and that is what I find fascinating. That when you have somebody, like Ben, who I knew had that work capacity, one because of his parents, but two, I knew what he was capable of in training. It all just becomes mental. So he's able to do that as well. That is a long-winded answer. I'm so sorry, but the reason you say like what makes you capable of doing these things? The point I'm trying to make is I don't think it's any. Yes. I don't think it's anything special, and they say that training is the realisation of one's genetic potential. And when I see any sort of athlete, it's amazing to look at them and say, I think you have a genetic potential to do this. And once you identify that, you just manifest it through the systematic application of strength and conditioning. It's that simple. And that's one thing that I really get a kick out of doing it myself, but also when I convince people to do, you know, marathon through midnight on a panini as well. That's what I really enjoy doing. And I just think it's one thing that I've really enjoyed. And I'm so grateful for with Red Bull, the way that we've broadcast this sporting social media experiment, that everybody's now seeing it and asking questions about their own physiology and saying, okay, for everything that Ross has just described there, that systematic application of strength and conditioning principles, progressive overload, work capacity, what can I do for myself? And that is a long-winded answer. I am so sorry, Liv. But no, that's genuinely why. That's one of the best things about the Great British Swim. And when I finish, when I finish, I can't wait to see what other people are now doing because they've seen this and they're applying some of the principles, whether it's the nutrition principles, work capacity. It'll be amazing. And that's what I always said, that the Great British Swim, I don't recommend it to people, but I just hope it shifts what they think they were probably capable of, or the limits that people put on them. You know, saying, oh, you can't do a marathon, you're too big, you can't do a marathon, you're too short, you can't swim, you're this body shape. And they go, well, no, actually, so I'm going to move on. I'm so sorry. Oh, yeah, here you go. So on that note, yeah, Michael Jones, was it at Limpstone when you did the 48-hour swim? I did, yeah, Michael, and that's a good one. That's a good one because, like, leading on from what I was saying then about work capacity, one thing that the Royal Marines taught me, and again, it was episode 3 of Strongman Swimming when we filmed there, is the Royal Marines are absolute experts in this idea of work capacity. So they're not specialising in any way. They're not trying to create amazing athletes. They're not saying you're going to be good at pole vault, you're going to be good at high jump, you're going to be good at sprinting. They're saying, no, we're going to create Royal Marines. So you're just going to have this amazing physical capacity to do work. And that was why we were just talking then just about the 48-hour swim. And Michael mentioned it. It was when I was training for the Great British Swim, I rung up the Royal Marines and said, I just need to swim for 48 hours. I need a swimming pool where I can swim for 48 hours non-stop. And the Royal Marines understood this, and they understood why I needed to do that, because I was looking to swim around the coast of Great Britain. I needed to know where my physiology was at and if I could tolerate that work capacity, and they got it. So, you know, and I'll be forever grateful to the Royal Marines for this. And the PTIs, or 6 of them, Benny, again, who's in episode 3, the strongman swimmer, he rounded up the guys, and they all slept on the swimming pool floor and took it in turns to be lifeguard for me for all of those 48 hours. They all stayed up and just rotated. So it was at Limestone, and that leads into work capacity there. I think something like the Great British Swim crosses the line from being a sport and almost goes over to like survival sport. You know, it's not something, a long sporting endurance event, whether it's an ultra marathon or, you know, an Ironman, something that's considered quite long would probably be, you know, 15 hours. We're 74 days in and only just over halfway, so this crosses the line from being a sport and into what I would consider, you know, this athletic adventure. And I think that's why I find myself sort of drawn and emigrating back to Limestone, where the Royal Marines train, asking for help, you know, asking for expertise, because they understand that what I'm doing isn't necessarily inside the realms of swimming as a sport. So yeah, I hope that and then JK Jump did the training with the Royal Marines help you prepare for the Great British Swim. So yeah, and on that note as well, actually, when I was swimming for the 48 hours, I think what was great is to speak to the Royal Marine PTIs there. And I remember I was turning to Benny and Guy and Matt as they watched over me, and we were like 36 hours in, and I remember saying, yeah, am I the only one in the swimming pool? And they were saying, yeah, Ross. And I was like, okay. Because I thought that people were playing water polo and I didn't want to disturb them. And he was like, no, there's no one in here. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, okay. And they just really were just like, you're hallucinating. I was like, oh, okay, good. And then just carried on swimming. But it was weird to know that that's normal. You know, and they'd had experiences of that. They'd done it. This is what they'd trained for. They were conditioned for this. Whereas I think coming from a background in sports science, I was used to being well slept, well fed. If I didn't feel quite right, I wouldn't train that day. And that now, again, goes back, one of the most important quotes from Strongman Swimming, episode 3, was when one of the recruits, he was 31 weeks into his 32 weeks training, and he looked at me and he said, do you know what the difference between me and you is, Ross? He says, you're an athlete, so you train to perform at your best when you feel at your best. He said, but we're Royal Marines, so we train to perform at our best when we feel at our worst. And it always resonated with me, because I haven't felt great for 74 days. I've had headaches, chafing, cuts, bruises. You know, I'm not going to set any PBs at all during the swim, but it's about performing at your best when you feel at your worst. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned from the Royal Marines, and I've applied on the Great British Swim. That you're not going to feel great, but that's when you have to perform at your best. And that's one thing that the Royal Marines really instilled in me. What is the next swim you will do? Ruby? Well, I've got a few ideas. Again, I don't think I'm allowed to say, but I'm probably going to take the rest of the year just to relax, and I'll swim, but nothing crazy. And then I'll probably make a few phone calls for something that might happen next year, maybe. How deep can you swim? Pretty deep. I don't know. I'll try. I'll get back to you. I don't think there's a record for the Great British Swim, how deep. I'm going to see. I will find out. I'm going to get back to you on that one. Did you go ashore in Ireland when you were swimming the Irish Sea? No. So we did. We pulled into some of the harbours like we are now. And I wanted to, especially like Ireland and Northern Ireland was just stunning. It was so green and just rural. It was amazing. But no, that's one of the rules. Not allowed to step foot on land. So even when we are parked like this, and we're so like, land is all of 40 metres that way. And it's now when it's just like, it's quite tempting. You're looking, going, oh, but nope. we said that I wasn't going to touch land until I come back around to Margate. And they're the rules. I think you've got to do this in the spirit of the adventure that we set out to. And I think stepping on land, it's just, it's just, we said we weren't going to do it, so we're not going to do it. How long did it take to plan the Great British Swim? Joff, not a long time to plan in terms of the theory, but once all the theory was done, it was just kind of like, oh, there's Matt, the captain. Once all the theory was done, there was no more planning to be done, because you can plan and you can plan and you can do all the theory and all the worlds and all the tides and currents. I would actually get Matt, but he's gone. He would be able to talk about this. The tides and the currents. But once you've done that, like, there's no blueprint for this. So you have to just set off. So the planning of the theory, quite a long time, looking at tidal maps, currents, weather, like speaking to people who could predict like weather months in advance. But ultimately, it was an unknown science. And so on June the 1st, we just thought we've done all the planning we can. We could probably plan some more, but we've got a weather window now. It's going to be a great British summer, and we just decided to go for it. And I think that's probably the case with a lot of adventures and expeditions. You can only plan for a certain amount, and then you have to just like take a leap. I can't remember who it was now. One of my favourite quotes, and it was just like, jump and build your wings on the way down. And I think in so many ways that's what we had to do on June the 1st. We just had to start, swimming and just see kind of what happened and adapt on the way. Freddie Kruger, I'm late. No, you're not, Freddie. Welcome. We'll be returning to Limpstone anytime soon. Unconventional training system in November. Michael, I might do. Like, I probably not. I don't want to swim, but I might be back at Limpstone. Yeah, like just to, because this is one thing I've been speaking to a lot of the guys there and just sort of saying about a lot of the teachings. We just said like the science of a smile, but one of the Royal Marines mottos, cheerfulness in the face of adversity. And in many ways, I'm trying to apply and understand the science of that. So yeah, I probably will go back to Limpstone and just sort of, just exchange theories, all around that, which would be really cool. How much has this amazing live stream taken away from your prep for tonight's swim? Mr. Bruce, it has, but equally, it's strange because you probably don't understand how nice it is for me to actually just do a live feed and chat to you. So this is what I mean about limiting factors, in that I am actually well fed and well rested and recovered. And so what could really make a difference for tonight's swim? I'm fully carved up. I can't eat any more carbs. I'm hydrated. I'm well rested and well slept. Had a good night's sleep. So what could make the biggest difference? More porridge oats? Like more bananas? No, like probably just chatting to you guys. So in terms of an interference, it actually isn't. And I mean this when I say, I posted today just saying, I don't think you realise how much you help. You actually don't, because everybody I'm chatting to now, I'll think about it for the next swim. So the next 6 hours, for the next 12 hours, I'll be talking about this. I'll remember like me and Adrian talking about whether I've weeded my wetsuit, and I'll be like, oh yeah, and he told me that there is chafing. So it's just like, you don't understand how much this helps. I don't step foot on land. The crew are amazing, but we live in each other's pockets. So to actually chat to you guys like this, it is amazing. It helps. BGG. What's been your favourite episode so far? Ooh, one of my favourite episodes. One of my favourite episodes was probably, I want to say number one, but probably, I don't know if favourite's the right word, but the one where we talk about mindset, so when I was with Anthony, that was before I left. And I think it was really strange to watch that one because I was so fresh-faced and I was like looking at myself just thinking, oh, look at you, like, so young and naive, like, you have no idea what's about to come. Matt's just fallen off the boat. Say hello to everyone, we're on a live feed. Alright!
Can you give us the latest?
Give us the latest.
Yeah, where are we?
We're in Scotland, which is good.
Well, this is the Isle of Skye, isn't it?
Sky's over there, mainland's over there, we're halfway round or more. It's cold.
Where? Yeah, it's not. Where? What was the speed record we did the other day?
8.7, so that was cool. 6.8 before that in the Mullican Tyre. 5 point something before that in the Isle of Wight. So,
But we might be able to beat that. Where we...
One more chance to beat it, I reckon, off the Pentland Firth. So we might be able to get up over 8.7, but it's going to be a tough one. So 8.7 is hard to beat.
Big.
Yeah, it's huge.
So and where's that? Opposite John O'Groats? Just
yeah, just when you go in between Orkney and the top.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a little bit there where we might get a bit of current.
This
So
is
we'll see what happens.
this is my favourite bit when Matt starts to smile and he says that he's got a good tide for me. I mean that was crazy. There were seals. That's going to be on this week's episode, I think. I'm looking at Rich to see if he's going to nod. I think it is. So we're going to get seals and 8.7.
Yeah, killer whales maybe.
I joked about that. I think this is what I mean when people were asking if I'm scared of anything, and I said, well, you told me to be scared if it's mating season with the seal.
No, I'm not commenting.
But genuinely, if you say there's nothing to worry about, basking sharks are friendly.
Basking sharks should be fine.
Seals are okay.
Yeah, orcas we're going to kind of we'll make a judgment at the time.
Because genuinely, you were saying that orcas are so intelligent they wouldn't mistake me.
Yeah, there's never been any case of an orca intentionally eating a human. So, but given that you've kind of like morphed into this sort of half seal, half dolphin in the last 74 days, I kind of, part of their diet is seals. So we'll have to think about that when the time comes, if the time comes. So.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Good luck with that one.
So yeah,
see ya.
That is. If one good thing about Matt is actually he has this crazy ability to see like seals and dolphins from anywhere. So I'm told that orcas aren't like sharks in that they will make their presence known. They'll be kind of like breaching and jumping. So I'm hoping Matt, who has this 360 vision while I'm swimming, and he just sits here where we are right now looking around. All jokes aside, if he sees some killer whales and he shouts, we have signals, hand signals. If I see him doing this and he says, get to the boat, you better believe it doesn't matter how tired I am. If I see Matt say, get to the boat, I'm swimming fast. And like I said, we have been told that they saw a pod of 40 orcas round the Moluccan Tyre heading this way. So all jokes aside, we probably will break a new speed record, if we see some orcas. Where are we at? Top one. Yusuf asks, do you ever want to give up? No, the reason is it's very easy for him to say no, but I haven't wanted to ever give up purely because I think the stars have aligned, and I'm going to try and keep this quite short and not as philosophical as possible, but me and Matt, we talk, at 2 o'clock in the morning right here. I'm sitting here and Matt's sitting here, and he's usually putting tape on my rhino neck, and I'm chafing, and we're sort of sipping a drink and a tea and Red Bull, and we have these deep chats. And one thing that me and Matt were saying is we've had the hottest summer in Britain for 40 years. It's been so calm. We've got an amazing start. We came around the south coast. The Irish Sea, which is known to be brutal, the same with the Bristol Channel, was just uncharacteristically just calm. And we, like I said, on the Irish Sea, we did over 100 miles in 3 to 4 days. The conditions we've had have been amazing, and I'm so lucky and privileged for that. So I just feel like and I've said this before, if Mother Nature, the ocean, Poseidon, whoever you want to call it, has handed you this gift and said, Ross, I'm going to give you a British summer that we've not had for 50 years. And there's the opportunity. Take it if you want it, but if not, I can't promise it you next year. And you'll know, everybody who's watching who lives in Britain or knows about Britain, you'll know sometimes we don't have the best summer. I mean, Great Britain is known for its unpredictable weather, tides, current. The coastline can be brutal. And so did I ever want to give up? No, purely because I feel that like the stars have aligned so many ways on this. And if ever you're going to do it, we've been handed, an absolute peach of a dream summer in terms of the conditions. So to turn your back on that and give up, it's like you may never get this opportunity again. And we're going to talk about this as well in probably 2 episodes time. I'm looking at Rich to see if he's going to nod. He's the media genius behind all. He's not nodding, but I'm going to speak to him later. We're going to talk about this just because if you've watched strongman swimming in terms of St. Lucia, when I tried to swim from St. Lucia to Martinique, I tried twice to swim 40 kilometres, pulling a 100-pound tree, and it was really hard for me not to make that. And I am still kind of, it's in the back of my mind that it's just like, I just don't want to feel like that ever again. It's just a human emotion. It's just like that one really hurt. I trained for over a year, but if you want to add up times that I was training since 11, it's like I've been training all my life for this. And I remember when I didn't make it to Martinique, it almost didn't compute, because I was like, that doesn't make sense. I've been training so hard for this. But the current and tide just flipped on us and just said, not today. So in many ways, when you say, do you want to give up? It's like, no, because I'm not getting back on the boat and feeling what I felt in St. Lucia. So yeah, I acknowledge that it's been horrible, not all sunshine and dolphins, but I've never wanted to give up purely because of that. And I think we're going to talk about that in probably a few episodes time. I'm looking at Rich, who still isn't nodding at me, so maybe we'll speak about it. Oh! Sorry, Rich. Where are we? Oh no, I've lost loads of questions. Oh, here's a good one. So, who will break your record? I think that's a good question. Only because to break the world's longest sea swim record could be quite easy if you just sit in the Gulf Stream. Like, the Gulf Stream is just consistent and goes. So you could sit in there, just eating your dinner on your belly, and you'll be going so fast. So the record is quite easy to break under the right conditions, but it's not about that. I think swimming around the coast of Great Britain is the real challenge, and it's not, as I said before, it's not necessarily about the record for me. It's about just doing something that people had never thought possible. I love this, but when we first announced it on the very first Red Bull vlog, so many people just said, no, it can't be done. And I was like, no, I'm slightly agree with you, but I'm going to try. And now it's been amazing seeing the public perception of what humans are capable of has just shifted ever so slightly, and that's been the best thing. So it's not necessarily about the record. If anything, if someone beats this and we shift the bar again higher, I'll be happier, because I just think, I did a little bit just in terms of like shifting what we thought I was capable of. 15 minutes left. Thanks, Liv. So we've got 15 minutes left, so I'm going to run through a few more. I was scared. I thought... what's the thing you're going to do after you finish the whole swim? Maya Antolini. Oh, what's the first thing I'm going to do? I don't know, because when we went round Land's End, it was amazing. Like, friends and family were on the boat, and there was such like a buzz. We'd swum. We were the first people to swim the whole of the south coast. It was amazing. But I didn't allow myself to celebrate, and the team almost didn't as well. We all like looked at each other and was like, wow, but we didn't want to celebrate, so we all suppressed that desire to celebrate. And then we swam from Land's End to Wales, and that was huge, but again, we didn't allow ourselves to celebrate. Swam the Irish Sea, got up to Scotland, didn't want to celebrate. We're going to get around John O'Groats, all being well, 2 to 3 weeks, don't want to celebrate. And so we're suppressing all of this kind of real desire to just celebrate, and so I'm worried, because not worried, that's the wrong word, but I'm quite a passionate guy. I like to celebrate, and to suppress all of that, I have no idea. I might just get to the finish, and whilst I might plan on going having the best, pizza with like barbecue ribs and stuff, I might just get there and then just like burst out into tears because of all this sort of suppression over 100 days at sea. So what I think I'm probably going to do might be very different to what happens, and if I end up coming back into Margate and then break down in just some blubbering mess, I'm going to apologise now, but that's it's going to be very hard because you almost learn to suppress so many emotions through this whole swim if it's not going to help you get back in the water and swim. So it's like, oh, I'm really painful, ignore it. Oh, I miss home, is it going to help me swim? Ignore it. No, I miss my friends and family, ignore it. I really wish I could go and step on that, ignore it. I want to celebrate because we just got around Lanzarote, ignore it. And so all of those things might actually come bubbling up. So I don't know, but I am actually going to mull that over when I'm swimming. So next live feed, I'll have an answer for you. Will you keep doing these sorts of events, or will you go back to the shorter stuff? I don't. There's been something about the Great British Swim that has felt very unique, and that we're just treading on new territory. And I think that's what's great about it. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be longer, but I think the appeal for this has been that it's just unique. So I think, whether it's colder, hotter, higher, lower, something that pushes the boundaries of human physical potential. It doesn't necessarily have to be longer, but just something. That's the appeal for me. So I don't necessarily know if it's going to be shorter, but just something that people don't think is possible, and that me, with this sports science degree but childlike curiosity, wants to find the answer to. If that's what is kind of like, I go, yeah, that, then I'll do that. Where are we at? How much has your diet changed about the Great State? Yeah, Brianna, it's changed quite a lot, but only because my tongue, like, things that I used to like back on land, like many months ago, now it's just like I said, porridge oats, bananas as well. Like, so we keep a banana tally. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the final tally yet, but we keep just above the roof here. Every time Matt throws me a banana, we tally it up, and that's just because a banana is just soft. It's not like loads and loads of flavour, so it's okay for my tongue. So my diet's changed just based on what my tongue will actually tolerate, if that makes sense. And so I do want my food, my food requirements are the most amount of calories, carbohydrates and fats, with protein staying consistent, 1.7 grams per kg of body weight, but of protein, the rest carbohydrates and fats, in whatever format my tongue will allow, basically. Where we are. Do you think it's possible for a human to swim as far as Denmark from the UK? Yeah, no, I do. But this is that I think it is possible. And that's what this is what I hope. I hope the Great British Swim just opens up everybody's, like, this creative process, that people go like, do you think it's possible? I think it is, but also, like, I thought a lot of things were possible, and I think that's what I'll love. And I just say, and again, if you watch Strongman Swim, the first one, I just say, set your goals high, but like really, really, really high, like stupidly high, because even if you fail, you'll probably end up setting some PBs or record in the process. And so I think if you're thinking of swimming from Denmark to UK, I don't want, I say look into it, but I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I'll say yes to most things. I convinced Ben to run a marathon on a panini. Brazil, I think, congratulations, ice cream emojis. I didn't even know there was ice cream emojis. How are you going your swim down under a bar when you finish a swim? Yeah, Quila, that's a really good question, only because I think, in terms of, like, I've just become, over 74 days, really, really good at just swimming for 12 hours a day. And so my body is completely adapted to that. If you got me right now to just squat or bench or play tennis, or anything outside of swimming, I will be awful. And I think that's one thing, again, specific adaptation to impose demands, said principle. Sporting principle that applies to all sports, that you're just going to get really, really good at what you continually practice. How long will I think that it takes? Again, going back to work capacity, I think given any amount of time, because if you have a higher work capacity, you're able to basically manipulate your physiology and start getting really good at something else. How long will it take? I don't know. I think that depends on the movement or the sport. but I hope to actually document a little bit of that as well, as I almost try and decondition myself from swimming so much. So will you continue the Strongman series after this? And what sports will you do? I don't know, actually, just because I do love swimming, and I mean, ask me again when I finish, but at the moment we're 74 days in and the novelty still hasn't worn off. It might by the time that I finish, but for the moment I still like swimming. So we might explore new concepts in swimming, and you know, I'm not entirely sure. And that goes back to just will you get land sickness from being on the sea for so long? Henry, yeah. As a team, we've been talking about this because a few of the crew members, they will basically rotate, and a few of the crew guys, they'll be on for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then they'll go on land, and they say they feel a little bit bad, like land sick as you call it. And I just think after over 100 days, it is a concern that I'm just going to arrive at Margate and then just face plant the floor and just be just walking with wobbly legs. So it is a concern, and I think that goes back to sort of intelligently looking to decondition my body as I try and go back to land, if that makes sense. What is the most beautiful animal you've seen in the ocean so far? Fernandez. I think most beautiful, the minke whale, just because of how big it was, but how efficiently it moved through the water. But also, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Riso dolphins, which are actually quite rare. So it was a real privilege. They're dolphins, but they're about 2 meters long. And that was just amazing, just because I felt quite privileged that they are so rare. That was off the Isle of Man. So yeah, minke whale because of its sheer size, but Riso dolphins because it was quite rare. So I knew it was a real privilege. Do you think... Oh, this is a good question. Do you think that the dolphins might be protecting you from sharks? I didn't. I do now. No, I'm joking. No. I'm told... Again, I'm told they might be. But I'm told that basking sharks are the only things that I have to worry about. And that there's not too many of those. And they're friendly. So, I hope not. Guy, have you tried surfing? Guto, I haven't, but Matt, the captain, amazing surfer, and Kate Roth, top of Scotland, John O'Groats. Before we get there, there's a place called Thurso, which is renowned for surfing. It's apparently it's unbelievable. And Matt has said if I'm to learn surfing, that Thurso is actually a great place. So, if we find some waves, there's a chance that the Great British Swim might become the Great British Surf if we've got time swimming between tides. So, fingers crossed, if that works. I haven't tried surfing, but in Thurso, we might do that. Where in England are you from? I'm from Grantham, small market town near Nottingham, so Midlands area. What's coming up for episode 12? Can't wait. What is you just found this? Okay, oh no. So Ben just passed me this. Marine Connection. Britain's most famous killer whale has been spotted off Scotland's west coast. The majestic male orca can be identified by the large notch in his dorsal fin and was first identified by the 25... It's over 25 years ago. Oh my god. Can you see that one, Greg? So, there's apparently a really, really famous orca that's really old that has just been started. West Coast?
Half a mile there.
No! We interrupt this live broadcast. That's right where we are! Oh no! Okay, so Ben's just brought this to my attention. 53 minutes ago, Marine Connection has just tweeted, Britain's most famous killer whale has been spotted off Scotland. Does it say if he's friendly? John Coe, our most famous killer whale in the West Country, was spotted off... Can we tweet them and ask if he's friendly? Who reported his spectacular sighting yesterday. But is he friendly? Okay, right, we're going to find out if he's friendly. There's a famous killer whale. Big Girl Ganch asks, what's going for episode 12? Can't wait. Yes. So, it was awesome yesterday. We had the media on yesterday, media on today, because today was when we broke the world record. So one thing we talk about is the world record, but also as well, you see me try and open a bottle of champagne. doesn't go very well. And also as well, on a more serious note, we talk about this idea of self-imposed swimming solitary confinement. So I can't wait for this week's episode, just because it's got this real contrast between the world record and the elation and having everybody on board, but also really sort of contrasting that mentally with the fact that, you know, you've still got over 50 to 60 days, not just me, but as a team, we've still got a long way to go, you know, 800, 900 miles. And so it's, we explore the mindset a little bit more. And a lot of people will say, what do you think about when you're swimming? So it's going to be really cool to actually talk about that at such a critical point, because with something so great as this and so monumental, it's like, great, but we can't celebrate. And mentally, you can't let this interfere. There's no point celebrating now. And worth noting actually is, as great as this is, by the World Open Water Swimming Association, we've been speaking with the president, Steve's amazing, so supportive, and he said, technically, as well as you've done, if you don't finish from point to point, Margate all the way around to Margate, it would be a DNF. It would be a did not finish. So it's amazing, but the reality is kind of like you've still got to finish, and you still got to do what you do. If you say you're going to swim from point to point, you have to swim from point to point. If you come up short, no matter how far you've swum for 74 days, swimming over 1,000 miles, it doesn't matter. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. So there's still that kind of mini celebration, added pressure, get back to work type thing. So this has been amazing. Like I said, as always, I really, really appreciate these because it gives me somebody else to speak to when I don't have to swim for 12 hours. But now I'm going to get suited, and we're going to go, I think Kate Roth and John O'Groats is that way. So we're going to head there, under the Sky Bridge, and hopefully get around the top of Scotland before the British winter sets in. Thanks guys, you've been amazing.
Thank you.